Oh, I say Dumoulin. Dumoulin. Don't mess it up. I will mess it up too. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Eating While Broke. I'm your host, Coline Witt, and today we have very special guest. School of Hard Knocks, James Dumoulin is in the building. Did I say that right? Or did
That's
I
correct.
butcher it?
That
I
works.
did?
Yeah, it
Okay.
works.
I don't know if you're being super nice to me or not. So, we are all the way here in Austin, Texas. I literally been like, do not miss a follow-up when it comes to getting you. And you're very responsive, and I'm super thankful. I watch your show, School of Hard Knocks, and I love that you really make the show about the content. Um, but then you're always curious about like, who's James? You know? Well, at least for me, I'm like, who is he? And I felt like when I watch a show, you're almost so hidden. It's like you have to like really stalk to find out who you are. So I'm excited to be able to have you on Eating While Broke. Before we get into all about James, I would like to know what you're going to have me eat today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I love the concept of your show. I'm a the media mogul. That's what I like to call it. But I love interesting concepts, and I thought that this was a fascinating concept for a podcast. So I really liked it. But we're going to be actually having a 12-count Chick-fil-A nugget meal with fries
Mm-hmm.
and our sweet teas. It's a classic. It's something that I've ever since I was a young kid grew up eating, and still to this day sometimes I indulge.
Well, let's go ahead and try it. I'm not a huge Chick-fil-A-er, even though in LA it's like the
Mhm.
most poppin', that and In-N-Out. But I've had this before. My favorite thing at Chick-fil-A is the cross fries, but you said fries and this is all they gave us. They don't have regular fries? I thought they
No,
did.
that's what they had, the waffle fries.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
great job on the sauces too. Barbecue and Chick-fil-A, those are the go-to, and I didn't even say that. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, perfect. So, take me back. I mean, we've all had it. Shout out to the listeners. You know a good Chick-fil-A meal.
mhm.
The sauce is definitely the best. Let's go ahead. Now, when was the last time you ate Chick-fil-A?
I want to say maybe like a month or so,
Okay.
a little bit of time.
Okay. Well, take me back to the nostalgia of Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely. So my first job ever,
Mhm.
I actually worked at Chick-fil-A. So for like 10 months when I was a sophomore in high school,
Mhm.
was making 7.25 working at Chick-fil-A, and
7.25. Jesus.
7.25 an hour is crazy.
Mhm.
But you almost kind of have to, in my opinion, experience that in any capacity. Some maybe it's working in the food industry, as somebody who's taking orders and stuff like that, to kind of realize that, hey, this isn't what I want to be doing forever.
Yeah.
Um, and then my second job was actually construction. So I worked construction for 2 years, my junior and senior year of high school. Paid a little bit better, but still was again one of those things where it's like, hey, this was cool. Made a little money doing it, was smart with it, saved it, but just wasn't something that I wanted to be doing forever.
Yeah. I did fast food, shout outs to McDonald's,
Mhm.
but I realized very early on that as crazy as this may sound, I thought that job was really, really hard.
Mm.
Um, the fast pace of it, I honestly said I tried fast food and I tried waitressing, and both were absolutely like Colleen, two jobs that you could never have for the rest of your
It's
life.
draining.
It's draining. You have to be like real positive. What if you're having a bad day? Or, if I'm anxious, I can't remember anything. So I learned, you're right. This is two careers. And I tell my friends all the time, like, I can't be a waitress and I can't work in fast food. Absolutely would suck at it. And I respect everyone that does those jobs even
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah, and it does teach you some skills as well. Like with Chick-fil-A, one of the things that, how their structure is they kind of instill in you to like treat people with kindness and have that customer service,
Mhm.
which you can take with you in a lot of ways, depending on what type of business you go into. If you're selling, because there's a lot of no's, there's a lot of people that are rude. I've experienced it a ton, especially when we were, coming up, starting our channel, going up to random people. I was told no in every possible way that you can kind of hear, but also remembering sometimes like when you're working that fast food, working at a place like Chick-fil-A, you get treated like shit behind the counter. And you kind of just have to learn to keep a smile on your face and just keep going. And you can't let that ruin your day. I always think about it this way. It's like there's 24 hours in a day. Um, why let 1 second or 1 minute ruin the entire day?
Mhm.
So I think that's something as well, because anybody that's worked in that position, I'm sure, like you said, working, fast food at McDonald's, you probably have some people that were super rude. And oftentimes most people just kind of let that ruin their days, which is very understandable. But the minute you can kind of realize to kind of just take it as, hey, it is what it is, on to the next one will be okay, the better you'll be.
I have to steal that logic because
Yeah.
that is impressive. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Usually, even when something bad's, I have to be like, "It's just this moment, just isolate it,"
Mhm.
right? Now, I try to imagine how you got the skill set of walking up to people. I imagine that you had this sales background, but to hear you were in McDonald's and construction prior to starting your channel, what part of those experience led you to seems like as a fan of your show, it seems like you respect and love entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So what's interesting is that I don't attribute any of my interpersonal skills of being able to go up and talk to people from working at Chick-fil-A and working construction. Obviously, it's more of like a trade, it's like a hard hands-on skill. But I actually like to say this because from 6 to 10, I lived in South Korea. So I lived overseas. My dad, he ran the largest overseas military base in the entire world. So he was a garrison commander. So I was from a military family. I lived in 3 different cities in South Korea, eventually settled back into the DC area before moving to Austin 5 years ago. But when I was living in South Korea, I was watching my dad speak and lead in front of tens of thousands of troops, people from Korea, even the American soldiers that were over there. And I was constantly used to people coming up to him, coming up to our family, and just learning how to communicate with people, with elders, people who were way older. Some of these people who were, in significant positions of power in the military and the government over there. So I had to learn from an early age how to like act professional, how to carry yourself in a confident demeanor in the right way when you're meeting these people, these heads of states, the top people in the military. And so I took that with me from an early age to every aspect of my life, to going into, I was in Boy Scouts. I became an Eagle Scout, and all of my, scout masters were all elder people, ex-Marines. But again, it's, always having those kind of like mentors to kind of conversate with and be able to guide you. It instilled, I feel like, that ability in me to conversate with people who are older, maybe from a business or financial standpoint, that maybe they're a little bit more like superior, more experienced. And I think a lot of it I do attribute to being from overseas, or at least living there for a couple of years, traveling all the time. We lived in 3 different cities in South Korea, but we also went to a ton of countries like China, Cambodia, Australia. And so I always say, to me, there's two things that will teach you more about yourself than anything else. It's traveling the world and fighting. Fighting will instill in you a different level of humility, because you can have no experience or a ton of experience, and you can still go up against somebody and get your ass beat, and that will teach you more about yourself than anything else other than traveling. Because traveling, you're experiencing different cultures, different people, and in my opinion, it allows you to look at the world from a much more global lens, as opposed to like a very narrow view on things, and not thinking outside of the box. So I think that between traveling and just being around a lot of older people, it taught me more about myself, how to communicate and handle those conversations.
So take me back. So your parents are you come from military background. They're affluent middle class. I would say
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, definitely middle class. My dad was military for 31 years. He gets out and is kind of just going to work in DC as like a government contractor sort of thing. The typical thing that a lot of the military guys do is they're in the military, they get out and they do the contracting thing. So definitely middle class. However, my dad was a guy who was very conservative with his money. He invested, probably ended up becoming a millionaire by the time he was in his like late 40s or 50s. But regardless, did instill a lot of good money habits within us, meaning he wasn't blowing money. He wasn't spending money on dumb shit. If anything, he was teaching us how to invest at an early age, because with him, he didn't start investing until his 30s. Whereas my brother and I, we grew up when we were working fast food. I started working construction. I was taking a lot of that money and putting it into the market, started to invest in stocks like really early
wow.
on, which, again, it's everybody, every millionaire and billionaire will tell you to start early, right? Because a lot of them, they don't start putting money away, or they didn't start putting money away until they were in their like 30s or 40s. And so, starting early is something that's very important as well, that was instilled in us.
It seems like your father had a lot of transparency to even bring you to these places where you're meeting these leaders and watching him interact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, did you guys spend more time with your dad than your mom, or?
Definitely more time with our mom. Just
Oh,
because, again, my dad was, very busy. A lot of the times he was deployed, or he was constantly going to different military bases, going to meet with different head states, different military leaders, and stuff like that. So for that reason, we definitely spent more time with our mom. But he was still very present, especially when he was finally done being deployed and came back. We were in the D.C. area. Never missed a baseball game. Was always there for his two sons. So I was very blessed to have, two great parents.
mhm.
And they instilled a lot of great life lessons in us. And it's interesting because, when we first started doing our channel that we have now, they were very hesitant at first. They were very like unsure of the idea because to them it's like it's a foreign concept. Like you can make money just by posting videos. Whereas like now, they're like our number one supporters. My mom's always telling me, "Oh, I want you to interview this person. I want you to
I
go and do
love
that." And
that.
so yeah, it's really cool to kind of see
Is it you
that
and your
transition.
brother?
It is. It's me, my brother, and then one of our childhood friends from the DC area actually, who was actually we met and we were in the same Boy Scout troop, all became Eagle Scouts, a little bit of a different age gap. So our good friend Josh, who's our other co-founder, he's 26 years old. My brother's 24 and I'm 22. So
You're 22.
22.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
22.
So usually when I have a younger person on the show, and off camera we were talking about this, I was like, oh, when we have a younger person, sometimes I prefer older because I'm like,
Sure.
I want to know that you guys have hit enough failure to like really
Hmm.
entertain me, because I believe failure is at the end of the day that's the closest way to get to success.
Hmm.
And sometimes with a younger person, I'm like, I don't know if they've hit their head enough. But with you, I was just like, the wealth of knowledge you have, I'm like, between your traveling, I assume I have this fantasy of who you are, so you can feel free to pop all the bubbles. I'm like, man, he must be well read. He must be pounding books and all day long on top of these interviews. Am I even closely right?
No, I've maybe read one book in my entire, maybe half a book in my entire life. I'm not a reader. I mean, I get knowledge in a lot of other ways from these interviews, and maybe that's one thing that I really do want to work on is reading a lot more. Because I will say a lot of the wealthiest people I know, they're avid readers.
Mhm.
But it's just not my style of learning. I don't like sitting still and reading a book. I'd much rather get it from actually going to seek out other people and have those conversations. I always like to say that mentorship is like wisdom without the wounds. And so to me, it's like I have,
I love that.
it's great, right? And I always say mentorship is literally the only way to, the only shortcut to success.
Mhm.
Obviously, learning from yourself, from your failures, but the way that you mitigate all that, like I said, is getting that mentorship, is getting around those types of people. But you know, I always say too, I'm also not a big person of like structure. Like I am probably one of the worst people I know about keeping a calendar and sticking to it. But everybody has kind of those things that they're great at and that they're not. And I would say that that's maybe one of my flaws is that. But no, I'm not a big reader. I just like am obsessed about what we do,
Mhm.
which is something that I've also noticed among, and this is a great point is that a lot of younger people will ask like how do I figure out what that thing is for me and at all points in life because there's people in their teens, their 20s, their 30s, 40s, 50s that are still trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And like I was asked that question the other day, and to me the way you kind of come up with that thing where you know that this is what you need to be doing is when you just can't stop thinking about it, is when you're genuinely obsessed. Like I will be up at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, depending on the day, just constantly thinking about, what can I do? What can I do better? What can I, how do I get more innovative? We just hit 5 million followers on Instagram
Mhm.
yesterday, and I'm like, I'm constantly thinking that it's like, how do we get to 10 million within the next, year or two? So I'm always thinking about that, but that's again how I know that what we're doing is what we should be doing because it's just the pure obsession with it.
I love that. Now, take me back. You graduated college in Texas.
Hmm.
When you were doing the fast food, you were in high school.
Yep.
Your parents were definitely taking care of you, and then you were just taking the money and investing.
Yeah.
At what point does School of Hard Knocks start to enter the picture?
Yeah. So, I was, so I'll first say this. I mentioned that I had those first two jobs,
Mhm.
right? Well, my senior year of high school, actually, this is the year I was working construction. It's about December 2019. And, I start to hear about TikTok. It's starting to get really popular. Now, I think TikTok had been on the App Store, like, it had been launched maybe late 2018, early 2019, but it
Mhm.
really started to hit its stride late 2019, and then going into 2020 is when it just, passed Google as the number 1 search engine.
Mhm.
And I was just watching TikTok casually, but I started to notice, like, there's these kids out there who are my age, who are younger than me, some older than me, and they're making ridiculous amounts of money, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, just making content about stuff that they were passionate about because they were able to build an audience and monetize it. And I love the saying that where attention goes, revenue flows.
Mhm.
And to me, I saw that in late 2019, and I just decided to start posting on TikTok. I didn't have any clear direction of how I wanted to take my brand or anything. I was just building my personal brand on there, just a personal TikTok. And I just kept trying different things, hopping on different trends, and I would go viral. And before I knew it, within about 10 months on that account, I had 800,000 followers.
Wow.
So went from 0 to 800,000 followers in about 10 months. So that was from like December 2019 up until August 2020.
And it
Well,
wasn't it was different types of
different
videos.
types of
Okay.
content. My first ever video that I posted that went viral. So my first viral video was probably like my 10th to 15th post, somewhere around then. But I try to tell people that it's like, look, most successful creators, I would argue the majority of them, if you ask them, hey, how many pieces of content did it take for you to have one viral video? A lot of them, it wasn't until their 50th or 100th or 300th video that it takes to go viral. And like most people, they don't understand that. And therefore they get discouraged because, oh, my first couple of videos didn't go viral. So then they're just done. They give up. And it's
Mhm.
like, I try and remind people that, like, look, some people, yes, does that, happen overnight? Sure, it does. A lot of the overnight stuff, though, look, where's the longevity in most people that go viral overnight? There isn't any longevity for the most part.
Yeah.
Whereas, people, it's a long game. Media content creation, it is a long game. And if you want to like actually be very successful in it, you have to be committed to it for a long time. And so, like I said, 10th, 15th post was the one that went viral. It was literally just me making a decision video on going to the University of Texas. So like I had applied to like 3 or 4 places, and did a video like showing all the places I got into and then deciding to go to UT. Got like 800,000 views. And I realized right then and there, it's like, okay, I posted that video I had like maybe 200 followers at the time.
Mhm.
And overnight it got 800,000 views. And I'm like,
Wow.
wait a minute. So you can literally have like 100 followers and you can have hundreds of thousands to 1 million people that see a piece of your video. I'm like, count me in. Like, this is crazy. I mean, obviously this has existed, but I hadn't seen it for myself. And so, like I said, it did that once and then was just posting a lot of miscellaneous content. So some of it was like me, doing self-improvement advice or making like lists of like my top favorite movies, my top favorite rappers, like stuff like that. And it wasn't anything where like I could have built a brand out of it. So after those 10 months, I hit 800K, but I kind of hit a wall mentally with it where I was like, I gotta do something else. This isn't it. And so I had connected with the childhood friend, my brother. We were at like a friend's house. This is right before I moved out from Virginia, the DC area, to Austin. And we kind of just connected on the fact that, hey, we're all from the DC area.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of us, if you know anything about DC, it's a very structured city,
Yeah.
very federal. They're like
Mhm.
centered around a lot of federal agencies, government jobs, contracting, defense. It's not entrepreneurial. So we kind of gravitated towards one another, being that my brother, myself, and our friend at the time, uh, we were all kind of doing our own thing. So we just kind of went back and forth. And a year goes by, but it was ultimately my sophomore year in April 2021, where the three of us were like, hey, the creator economy right now is like a $500 billion industry. And we all kind of have different skill sets. My brother was an analytics genius. I knew content. My other partner had a digital marketing background. We're like,
Oh, okay.
let's start a media channel together. We all of our skill sets kind of complement one another. And we're like, let's start a business media channel. So we started the channel originally, and it was just the three of us that were making the content ourselves about business. We weren't even doing interviews when we started out the channel. But we're like, nobody gives a shit about 3 young 20-year-old kids talking about business content. We're like,
Okay.
and we grew it from 0 to 25K in like 6 months, but we're like,
That's amazing, though.
yeah, it's great. However, again, kind of how I hit that wall with the other one, with this one, I was still like, how do we it was all over the place. We're like, how can we kind of be different? And even though, street interviews have been around for 20 years, like
Mhm.
every major news uh, site or
Mhm.
channel, has done street interviews with people. But I'm like, it wasn't done in a way in which I saw like the opportunity. So we just started going around, cold approaching people, finding people that have industry experience of 20, 30, 40 years in different businesses from tech to real estate to finance to general entrepreneurship, and just tried to get those insights and be able to package it and pass it on to the younger generation. So that was, sometime in 2021, and fast forward to 2025, grew it to 12 million followers.
Mhm.
We've done over 4 billion views in the last, 4 years, and I've learned a ton about business, um, you know, content creation, virality, everything. Now, there were definitely some setbacks and adversity on the way as we were, building, but ultimately, it's
I would
it's been
like
an
to hear some
incredible
of the
journey.
setbacks and I love
Absolutely,
failure
absolutely. Well, I'm happy to give you one.
or speed bumps or road bumps.
Absolutely. So, this is one that's been very. I think this story is very helpful for a lot of people. So, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever received was from a gentleman in Houston. His name's D.L. Woods, made like $16 million in a year. And, the best entrepreneurship advice that he gave me was stay small enough, long enough, and you'll be big enough soon enough. And I absolutely love that. And all the wealthiest people will tell you the best investment you can make, especially when you're starting to become profitable and actually make money, is reinvesting and putting it back into the business.
Mhm.
The reason why I bring this up is because this was very relevant to what happened to us, and had it not been for that, the three of us would have been screwed 100%. So we're about a year into the channel. So my other partner, Josh, he had dropped out. So he had gone full time with this channel.
He
Uh,
dropped out of college. I
yes.
love that.
So
Sorry.
before we even started, he dropped out years ago.
Okay, okay.
Like I said, he's a bit older.
Mhm.
So, he dropped out to pursue a digital marketing agency years ago. So he had already dropped out, but his digital marketing agency had a partner. They kind of went their separate ways. And then when he started doing this, he went full time with the content channel, like really before we were ever making money. And as I said, with like media content creation, it's a long game.
Mhm.
Unless you want to dilute your brand, like you're not going to be making good money off of content for at least, a year or two.
Mhm.
But so, anyways, we're like a year and a half in. By this point, I'm probably a junior in college. My brother is now graduated at the time. So he's full time on the business. My other partner, Josh, is full time. The three of us are full time. And we're at a point now where, this is what, 2021? So a lot of people don't know this. 2020 was the first year that Facebook ever stagnated users, meaning in the entire 20 plus years that Facebook has existed, the only year, 2020 was the first year that they stopped growing.
Mhm.
And the reason why they stopped growing is because you've got TikTok, which from a short video perspective just started crushing everybody. Instagram had adapted with the Reels. And obviously, Instagram at the time was a little bit more relevant that it was a newer app. Facebook
Yeah.
was a lot older. So Facebook sees this and they go, you know what? We got to start incentivizing people to create content, create videos on Facebook. So they roll out this monetization program on there that's paying creators a lot of money. And so we're about a year into the Hard Knocks channel,
Yeah.
and we get invited into this program. And for a couple months in the program, we're making $25,000 to $35,000 a month. So
Jesus.
this is like a year to year and a half into Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
However, we knew content, but we didn't know the media business.
Mhm.
So for that reason, our entire business model and our entire monetization was just relying solely on ad revenue.
Mhm.
We didn't have a content agency at the time.
Mhm.
We have one now. We weren't monetizing in any other ways.
Mhm.
We were approached every once in a while to do like a brand partnership or create content for a brand. But even then, it's like at the time we had a couple 100,000 followers on TikTok and didn't really have a huge presence on Instagram. So we weren't making any great money off of brands. And there's three co-founders. However, the ad revenue for those couple months that we were making 25 to 35,000 off of Facebook, we're like, man, this is incredible. This is
Yeah.
this is great. And again, one of those reoccurring pieces of advice that we were receiving was to, again, put the money back into the business.
Mhm.
Don't be greedy. Don't take the money for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we did. So during those months that we were getting paid like that, we were all paying ourselves $2,000 a month,
Okay.
which is literally just enough to cover rent
Yeah.
and expenses. So you know, none of us were saving money. We were just taking the $2,000 a month out each for, for the three of us, which covered our rent, covered everything else. Everything else went back into the business out of that 25 to 30K. Well, when you post a video on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, I tell people this: when you post on their platform, you no longer own that content. They own that content.
I didn't know that.
Well, they do, because at the end of the day, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they can decide whether that piece of content stays up. They can decide whether they want to pay you off it or not. That's what I'm more so.
Mhm.
Obviously, you as the creator
Yeah,
that posts the content, yes, do you technically own the content? Sure. But at the end of the day, when you post it on their platform, who owns the platform?
they
They
do.
do.
Yeah.
So for that reason, we posted a piece of content on Facebook, and it was our own interview, but something got flagged and we ended up getting demonetized. So we go from making like $25,000 to $35,000 a month to literally like $3,000 to $4,000 a month off of just TikTok.
Wow.
Because TikTok was still paying, but TikTok at the time, paid pennies compared to what they were paying. So we go from making $25,000 to $35,000 a month, all the way down to $3,000 to $4,000 a month between three people.
Wow.
And it was like that for a couple months. And, that's kind of when we're starting to have the conversation, like, do we disband? Like, do we
Do we
like,
disband?
well,
Oh
well,
my gosh.
we're just,
Yeah.
because it's like, we weren't making any money off of
Mhm.
it. And it's like, they were full time. And it's like, again, making $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Like, but what kept us afloat again was those couple months where we were only paying ourselves $2,000.
Yeah.
We
Cash
put a
flow,
lot of
right?
money back into the business. So we had a decent account. We're like, hey, we just need to figure this thing out, and we can, we'll be able to bounce back. And so at that moment, we came to we realized that you cannot build a business off of ad revenue, because you don't determine how much you're paid, you don't determine when
Mhm.
you're paid, you don't determine whether you even get paid or not off of that content.
Mhm.
So we're like, we need to get savvy. And it reminds me of, also in 2023, I had gone to like my first ever mastermind with a bunch of 8-figure, 7, 8, 9-figure internet marketers. And a gentleman said a statement to me that stuck with me, to this day, is that great businessmen are terrible content creators, and great content creators are terrible businessmen. And it's very true, because some of the most successful business people I know, they're terrible at content, right? They know their business, but they don't know content.
Yeah, yeah.
Most content creators that I know are
Mhm.
broke. Like, most
Mhm.
content creators, they don't understand the media business. They don't know how to monetize it. So then we began to look at, okay, there's three of us. What do we do to be able to kind of get on the right track and figure this thing out? And it reminds me of, I'll give you one other lesson and then, pass it back on to you. But there was a gentleman out in Scottsdale, Arizona. He owns like 4 8-figure businesses, huge real estate guy. His name's Cody Sperber. And he told me a piece of advice that, I love this piece of advice, is that a savvy entrepreneur, he looks at their business and looks at two things. Number one, all of the people making money off of their efforts. And number two, all of the different ways in which they can be making money. So it's that vertical integration. So
Oh.
the wealthiest, the most successful people that I know, they look at their core business
Mhm.
and they look at, how are my competitors, or how are my customers, how are people making money off of me? And I'm going to go start a business there, or I'm going to integrate my business there. Or like, okay, us, right? Our core business was media, was attention. How can we use our platform to then begin to make money, which is exactly what we did. And, our first thing we started, okay, we're interviewing wealthy people. We're going viral with wealthy people. Let's start a marketing agency therefore we'll go viral with them, and then we'll close them on doing their content. Let's build their personal brands. And so
Oh,
we have a
wow.
content agency where we work with some of the biggest, most well-known entrepreneurs in the space, and we do their personal brands. So it's like, okay, there's one business. We're like, okay, the number one question that we get asked is, how do you connect with these people? How do we get access to them? So
Mhm.
we started and built one of the biggest online communities for business owners
I saw
to
that.
connect and be able to, learn every week from them. So it's like, that's what it's all about. It's like, okay, this is our core business. It's attention. We get eyeballs. How do we now monetize this? And, in doing that, that's what enabled us to kind of come back from that adversity, was having that, couple months of operating expenses in the business. We're like, hey, you know, we can either give this up or we can keep going, and we did, and it was worth it.
Wow. And then during I want to say, how long was your hurdle for that gap? Would you
6
say
months at least.
it was
Yeah, yeah,
six
it was
months?
a
So you
while.
guys were almost getting down to the wire at
It
that
was a
point.
while. I would say maybe like 3 to 4 months into it, we may have closed our first client, but we didn't know anything about scaling. We didn't know. I mean, again, we'd been learning a lot about business, but we weren't implementing it. And I
Mhm.
always say that information changes situations, but only through implementation. And so, now it's like, okay, we are genuinely like learning from these people, and we're constantly adapting. Like, we'll pay to have a phone call with somebody successful. I mean, obviously now our Rolodex, our network is unbelievable.
Massive.
And we do our best to provide a value to as many people as possible, and as many of these people that we really, really, value. And therefore, it's like, hey, if we go to ask them a question, or hey, would you invest in this if you were us, or whatever it may be, it's now like never like a hard ask, just because we've really done a good job about building those relationships and stuff like that. But it was a good bit of time. So and then I would say we really didn't start making good money until probably sometime mid to late 2023, and then we started to clear six-figure months. I would say probably back like last like June, like
Wow.
last June, last summer was when we started to. Ever since then, we've been clearing six-figure months, and then our biggest month was this past December, where we did over 600,000 in revenue, and then 500,000 of that was profit. So
Jeez,
yeah, half
that's
a million in
amazing.
profit last December.
How now, so you have the school
Hmm.
that people can they pay to subscribe,
Yeah.
and how when you were going about building that school, how did you work out the infrastructure of how you were going to lay that all out?
This is a great question. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, is that, and I'll give you one more little setback,
You can
and
give me as many as you want, okay?
absolutely. Well, this is just probably like the worst, one of, if not the worst financial decisions that us as a company ever made. So one of the biggest mistakes that content creators make is that they get shiny object syndrome, to where they're like, okay, you know, I just went viral. I'm getting followers and all this and that. I'm going to start a clothing company. I'm going to
Mhm.
start an e-commerce store, without even thinking about the most important thing within the audience, which is why they actually follow you. So what we did, probably this may be like a, you know 2022, so probably when we started to make a little bit of money, or actually maybe this was actually, I'm sorry, this was actually probably before we even got demonetized. So we were, again, having those months where we were doing decently off of like just the ad revenue,
Mhm.
probably like a year and a half in. And we're like, you know what we should do? We're like, since we're doing, these interviews that are motivational, we're interviewing successful people, we should start a canvas store. Like, how like there's like motivational like wall art and stuff
Yeah.
like that. We're like, that'd be a great idea. And we're all going, yeah, 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 like let's do it. And we even, to the point where we were serious about it, we started to work on it. And we even, you know, for 3 months hired or invested in invested $5,000 a month
Mhm.
in an outsourced CMO, meaning we had somebody that we knew who was incredibly talented, like probably one of the most well-respected uh, internet marketers, e-commerce entrepreneurs that I
Mhm.
actually know to this day. He's absolutely crushing it. We paid him $5,000 a month for 3 months to come in and help us build it out, and help us market it and sell it, all for us to maybe sell 5 to 10 canvases. So we spent $15,000, and literally we lost more when you talk about
Yeah.
paying for the designers, the like everything else. And the reason why is because we never talked to the customer. We never talked to the
Mhm.
audience. We never figured out, is this something that they even want, that they're
Yeah.
interested in? And so, but like Mark Cuban always says, is that it's like nobody's going to come save your business. Like, a lot of people have this
Mhm.
idea that, oh, you know, I completely agree with the fact that, do you need to hire like people, bring them on, do partnerships? 1,000,000%. Like, my whole thing is like, I'd rather have a slice of the pie than 100% of a grape. Whereas like, if people are genuinely talented and
The way you talk is just you gotta repeat that.
it's in sound bites, right? It's
No, but
everything's in sound
the
bites.
100%. a
Yeah.
small piece of the pie or
This
100%
is
of a grape
this is
is
genuinely like
so beautiful.
one of my favorite and the most important things because a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to be the solopreneur and do everything themselves
Mhm.
without realizing that, hey, maybe, like I said, perfect example is like a content creator who's great at content, but they suck at business. It's like, dude, go find somebody that is incredible at business. They know how to build this out. They know how to market it. And you just do what you do, which is create content. And that's like my philosophy, even with me and my two other co-founders, my brother and my friend, is like, hey, they know that I'm incredible at creating content. So with their philosophy with me is like, dude, go book the flight. You want to go film there, just go book it. Even before we were starting to make like really good money, they were still like, dude, just book the flight, just book it. And that's like a great way to operate
Mhm.
if you're strategic about it. But yes, as an entrepreneur, I would rather have a slice of a pie than 100% of a grape. Meaning it's like if you partner up with somebody who is extremely good at an area where you're not, and your skill sets can complement one another, you're gonna make significantly more money,
Mhm.
even though you're giving split of the money as opposed to you trying to do everything yourself. Because
100%.
there's only so much that you can do. There's only so much area for growing that you can do if you're trying to do everything yourself. And so, yeah, I think that was, incredibly important. Like what I was saying, it's like I'm a huge advocate of that. But at the same time, it's like, most people, they fail to ask their audiences why people follow them.
Mhm.
And over the last couple of years, as we were starting to interview more super high net worth people, billionaires and stuff like that, people were always asking us and DMing us saying, "Hey, who is this? How can I get access to them?
Mhm.
How could you send us their contact and
Mhm.
all this stuff?" So to us, we're like, okay, the number one reason why people reach out to us is literally for the ability to get in contact with or to figure out how we're meeting these people.
Mhm.
And so we started to realize that, hey, you know what business we're actually in? Yes, we're in media, but we're in the bridging business where we are bridging everyday people, consumers of content, and we're bridging them directly to some of the most successful people in the entire world. And for that reason, we're like, okay, let's, it just made sense for us
Yeah.
to think about building a community that connects
Yeah.
the everyday people
Mhm.
directly to these people, which is exactly what we did. And obviously, it took 6 months plus to be able to build out the infrastructure. There's a lot of on-demand content, master classes, there's weekly
Mhm.
calls, but we also did a lot of polling, like saying stuff like, hey, if we built an online platform or community, what would you guys want to see in there? Or out of these four things, what is the number one like most important or like thing that you would want the most? And we did a lot of that for a couple months. And I think that's very important and very underrated that a lot of people mess up on when they're building their brand, creating content, starting to get some traction is like before going all in saying, okay, I'm going to start a clothing company. But what if
Mhm.
people aren't following you for what you're wearing? Like for
Yeah.
prime
Yeah.
example, I would say that I probably know more about content and, just virality, the algorithm as a whole, more than 99.9999% of people. However, people don't follow me because of that. People don't follow our channel, The School of Hard Knocks, because we know how to go viral. So, like, if I wanted to, build and attempt to sell the viral video blueprint or
Mhm.
how to go from 0 to 1 million followers on social media, it probably wouldn't hit. I mean,
Yeah.
are there some people that maybe would bite just because of the sheer amount of volume
Mhm.
and eyes that we have? I'm sure. Right? But is that what would make the most sense for our existing audience and our existing type of content and why people are actually following us? Definitely not. So, and a lot of it is you have to remove your bias out of it.
Mhm.
You have to remove any emotional attachment that you have to, oh, I'm great at this. I should go sell this.
Yeah.
And when it's like, no, it's like, what do people actually want? You know, I interviewed a gentleman, he sold his company to Hilton for $2.2 billion, Stephen Klubeck. He's actually running for governor of California. And
Oh, okay.
he said he said that it's like, the most that's what he always preaches is like talk to your customer, talk to he owned like over 400 hotels in 35 countries. And so that's his thing. It's like him being in the hospitality business, he's always talking to people, hey, what can we do better? What is it that we could add to our resort to improve and stuff like that? And now his big thing is like with the people of California, is it's like, he said it this way that made it really interesting to me. Is like that like the people of California are like customers of
Mhm.
California. And so hearing that perspective, even shifting it to like what we're doing as a content creator, building out this business, is like we are always constantly trying to talk to different people. Are you familiar with Steve Madden, the
Yes.
close?
Yes, very familiar.
I interviewed him, and one of the most fascinating things that I saw him do after we interviewed him were outside of his apartment in New York City, and he's just stopping random ladies on the street asking, "Where'd you get your shoes from?" And he's just talking to different people about what do you like about them and all that. And I'm like, this guy's a billionaire. His company's doing
What?
3 billion, two to three
Yeah,
billion dollars a year in sales,
yeah.
and he's just talking to random people, asking them about their shoes and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's really interesting. So I learned a little bit from everybody, but that's something that I've really those couple things have really made sense to me when it comes to like the decision for us building out. That's what went into
Mhm.
thinking about launching the community and the infrastructure for that.
Yeah. I get, uh I get nervous anytime, as even with eating while broke, if I'm like, all of our revenue is coming from one area. I like to see it split. I'm like, I don't mind one part taking up 30 to 40%, but anytime it hits over that 40% where all of our revenue's coming from, I'm like, we gotta find something else. We have to start really thinking. But it seems like you guys started to do that once the life supply kind of came out, you guys were like, oh snap. Was there another painful lesson in the business where it was just like that you guys started to argue, maybe kept up at night, started reaching out to your parents like, "I don't know."
You know, I don't know. I know that one thing I'll say about the partnership that I have with my brother and my good friend, and I think this is also very important because a lot of people will argue against going into business with friends and family,
Mhm,
but I don't see it that way. I think there's one thing that you guys do have to have in order for you to partner up, because I think the beautiful thing about going into business with family or childhood friends, where the kind of people that you are. And what I mean kind of people, not what you're good at and what you're bad at, but genuinely, like when I see and I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs about why their business failed or why big companies failed, a lot of it had to do with a, a bad disagreement or dishonesty
mhm,
between the partners or the founders or whatever it may be. And that's the one thing is that I can say confidently that, between myself, my brother, my other partner, I know them morally. I know that our values are all aligned, that we're all in sync, and that I wouldn't ever have to worry about somebody taking a dollar behind somebody's back out of the
mhm.
business or doing something dishonest. I know that for a fact. I know for a fact that I wouldn't do that to them, obviously because I love them, but obviously like I just was raised in a way that like, hey, that's not the right thing to
Yeah,
do. No matter what point you get to, and it's really cool to be able to know that and know that hey, if we're in this shit together, like even during we call them like the trench days where we were just making $2,000, got demonetized down to the point where we're making like 4K a month collectively for a couple months. Even during those days, we were still just very very close with one another, and we're really in it together. But the problem with that is, in going into business with people that you know and that you love, is that it does create a sense of comfortability for a lot of people,
mhm,
to where when you're, constantly around people that you grew up with or that you live with, you can become very comfortable
mhm,
because it's what you're used to. Whereas it's like, okay, that's why people always say it's like, get out of your hometown, go do something uncomfortable. I think that's some of the best advice that you can ever give somebody is to like literally like leave hometown, go get uncomfortable. It's gonna, you know, to me, low pressure means low performance. So even causing you to have a
mhm,
little bit of like pressure to where
mhm,
you have to meet people, you got to make connections, you got to build without knowing people. I think that's a great thing, but I don't think we ever experienced that comfortability because we were never afraid to put one another in check. And most importantly, like I said, that one thing that you have to have is that you cannot be surrounded by a yes man. And none of us were yes men, meaning if somebody felt a certain way about something, but the other person completely disagreed, we were not afraid to just butt heads
mhm.
to the point where it's like it could go on for a while, just like arguing, like, pretty harshly, genuinely. Yeah, I would say like, yeah, not in a nice way sometimes. And that's a great thing about having that third partner is that they're able to when you have two people or that third partner is able to kind of go in there and reason with one of them or go agree with one of the two, you're able to kind of come to a decision in a better way because that person who's disagreeing with the other two is like, okay, if you two are saying this, then I don't have a choice because it's like, look, there's three of us here. Maybe I need to see it from your lens a little bit
Mhm.
more. However, it takes those two to go at it and not be like, just this person's, feeling this way about it. Oh, if he's feeling that way, then he's absolutely right.
Mhm.
We were never like that. And that was extremely important. So I think that like whether it's you, the people that you decide to partner with, you just cannot be a yes man or a yes woman towards each other because like again, it's you got to have those uncomfortable conversations sometimes
Mhm.
to ultimately make the decision that's going to move the needle the furthest for your business or whatever endeavor that you're doing. So I don't know if there was like a specific thing in which I mean, I'm sure that there were a lot of different things here and there on the way
Mhm.
that were, but like to me, like those were when I think of like setbacks that we had, it was definitely the one where we completely got demonetized for months. We're like a year and a half in,
Mhm.
making a couple $1,000s, or to that point we weren't even really paying ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah. Yeah.
living off of our bank accounts in Austin, which is a more expensive city than most places. Not
Mhm.
LA expensive, but it's still
It's getting up
it
there,
is, it is
but
for
it's
sure,
definitely more affordable.
for sure.
And
Yeah.
you guys were doing a lot of this too, it seems like during the pandemic.
hmm
Can we talk about that, like the hurdles you faced doing that?
So during the pandemic is when I actually started on my personal account.
Mhm.
So that was from, December 2019 to like August 2020 was like peak pandemic was when I started to grind on TikTok.
Mhm.
And so a lot of my, you know, close friends, relatives, people I went to school with, a lot of them were looking at the pandemic, not everybody, as maybe like a vacation or
Mhm.
like time off. And don't get me wrong, like I feel horrible for people that like they were lined up to go to a school or they were lined up to do something really great. I mean,
Mhm.
I know a ton of people. I think about all the younger kids, like the athletes that didn't get that showcasing to different schools or whatever it may be, getting in front of the right people. But I genuinely took it as such an opportunity, and I think that's also another important thing as well is that like when everybody's kind of chilling out. And obviously, there was a lot of reason why they had no choice because people
Yeah.
were getting laid off from companies,
Yeah.
and in order for them to go find work, like people weren't really hiring. Like a lot of
Mhm.
businesses were losing tons of money, especially like if you were something that
They
was
were
like
full on shutting down.
yeah, full on shutting down, right? Which
Yeah.
which was crazy. But I to me looked at COVID as an opportunity to get ahead on,
Mhm.
honestly, and that's why like when I was doing my like personal account and I went from 0 to 800K in the 10 months every single day during COVID, I was posting 2 to
Mhm.
3 times a day,
Mhm.
every single day. It didn't matter where I was, whether I was on a train, flying somewhere, going to visit family, going to visit relatives. I was just posting nonstop, relentlessly. So I looked at that as an opportunity to where, okay, obviously, I was a senior in high school. Our semester just ended in like March, which was crazy. And as opposed to waiting months before moving out to Texas to go to school in August, I was like, okay, what could I be doing now until then? I still worked construction that summer actually, but I was
Oh,
still doing that. And then um, I was doing the construction, but then I was just blowing up on the social media side of things. So I just looked at it as an opportunity to, hey, why not run with this? Just kind of see where it goes.
yeah. I love mentorship. I love my mentors. I try to tell cuz I mentor a lot of younger people.
Mhm.
And I always tell them I like to seek mentors that aren't in the same line industry, remotely different industry, completely different, stratosphere almost. For me it's like I gain more knowledge. Uh you with everyone you interview, do you have a particular like handful of mentors that are like in your Rolodex, or do you just everyone that you interview that kinda supports, like, do you just say, "Hey, do you wanna be my mentor?" Just trying to figure out that.
That's a really good one. Um, there are definitely like a handful of people that I would say that I have in my Rolodex that I know that I could text them at any time of day or call them any time of the day, and that if I needed something that like they would be there for me. Um, But I look at it is that in your life, you should have mentors for just about every aspect of your life, whether it be spiritual mentors. Definitely a Christian. So I know that there's 5 to 10 people that I know that know more about the Bible than anybody else, to where if I have a question about this or spirituality, my faith, or whatever, I can always call on one of them and they'll be able to give me insights or guidance if I'm struggling with something. And then also when it comes to the business side of things, it's like just because we're constantly meeting these people, we're nurturing, we're building these relationships, a lot of them, maybe I meet once or twice, but I try and stay in touch with them. I try and check in on them. Now, some of them, maybe it is literally just for, you do an interview and anything comes up, maybe to do another one or another opportunity at some point like that, then we'll make it happen. But I would say I definitely, and especially when we started our content agency, where we started to work with a lot of super successful entrepreneurs closely to build their personal brands, to strategize and everything, that got us to know them a lot more and become a
Mhm.
lot closer with some of these people. And so I've got a couple that I'll just kind of like shout out. There's a gentleman, his name's Anyi Adenukwe.
Mhm.
He's from Dallas. He owns one of the largest sun spa tanning franchises in the entire world. And, he taught us how to delegate. He taught us how to, you know, stop working in the business and start working on the business, like
Mhm.
remove ourselves, stop being employee entrepreneurs. He's also extremely successful in real estate. Him and another one of my clients, his name's Todd Napola, who owns hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate out in South Florida. So, in January this past year, we made our biggest investment ever, me and my 2 co-founders, into a huge real estate project out in Texas.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about having the network that we have and the Rolodex that we have is that, we're able to send the deal that we invested in to 5, 10 different people that own tens and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, where they've invested in great deals and some not so great deals. And again, the mentorship thing is like it's genuinely wisdom without the wounds,
Mhm.
because we're able to ask these people and be able to get that kind of unanimous decision from them on whether or not this is a good idea or not. Without having that, and we're
Yeah.
just going in blind to a deal or making a decision, the deal could blow up in our faces, or it could ultimately be a bad, decision. And then and even within that, you're still going to learn a lot from it, to be like, okay, hey, if this is in it, if this isn't, then we probably shouldn't invest here or whatever. But being able to rely and have so many great people that we can reach out to and ask questions about, that's like a beautiful thing to be able to have. And we've definitely taken advantage of that. But also it's like I look at it that not only do we ask these people for help, I'm always looking at ways to be able to add value to people.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of power in that. And what a lot of younger people and people from all across the board, what they struggle with is that when they're trying to connect with people who are, higher net worth, or, money's not everything, but like just in a capacity, when somebody's trying to connect with somebody that seems like maybe like out of reach, or that it's like a long shot, a big problem is because they make it all about them.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like, how do you make it about this person every single time? It's like you should always be looking at how I can deliver value to this person off the bat, and not for them to try and come up with ways of how you can, like, be intentional about what you can do for that person, how you can help them out, how you can add value to their business or whatever that they're doing on a regular basis, and not saying, hey, I'd love to come work for you for free and come add value for you. It's like, okay, but then now that person has to think about what you can actually do for them, and it's like they probably don't even need you. Whereas
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you have a skill set here, this person's clearly lacking that. Boom, go and tell them exactly what and how you're going to do it for them, and it gives them much more of a reason and incentive to connect with you. So I think that there's a lot to be said about that though, as well, as in trying to like connect with and network with the right people. A lot of it just comes down to straight up just adding value to those people, and those relationships, to make them lasting and to make them worth it for the person who's taken the time to connect with you. Because a lot of mentorship, uh, if it's not organic, it's literally gonna be, like, paid. Some of these
Yeah. Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
it's crazy, which is almost all the time worth it, as long as it's with the right person.
Yeah.
But, to me, I mean, we built our network organically without spending a dollar on it. I mean, we've gone to masterminds and events, and we paid for people's time before, for sure, which I think is necessary in a lot of
Yeah.
different capacities. But just from building what we built, we've gotten hundreds of people in front of, multi millions of people.
Mhm.
So giving them that attention, that exposure, a lot of the times makes the people that we interview feel like, hey, anything you guys need, you
Of
let me know.
course, of
So which
course.
is a really
So
nice thing to have and be able to do, because now it's like, hey, a lot of these people, we have them kind of in our back pocket, that like, hey, if we know that we have a question about this or want to get their perspective on this, or ask, kind of guide us in this way. Hey, this person's the best in the world at this. Let's go figure out, what we should do.
yeah. And I know I haven't let you eat not one bite. I'm gonna let you eat this cold Chick-fil-A right after this last question. And my question is, what's a day in the life of James?
Mhm.
I really am trying to get to know you. So I just want to know, you wake up today. Obviously, there was a text from me in there, but what's a day in the life of you on average?
Yeah. Well, that's what's really interesting. Like I said, I'm not the best person at keeping a schedule. There's times where, like I'll set up 3 calls for 12 o'clock,
Mm.
and
Oh,
I'll
wow.
move all of them back like 20 minutes. And so that's again something that I'm not great at.
Hmm.
And obviously, like depending on, the opportunity and how pressing something is, it's like, okay, I will 100% make this priority, like will not mess this up or whatever. Um, but, I would say typical day in the life, I'll give you kind of like two different ones. One, if I'm home base here in Austin versus like if I'm traveling, because that is when it kind of gets completely different. Because when I'm here in Austin, I do have much better structure. It's like I woke up this morning, I ran 2 miles. I've been getting a lot more into running. I've always been like into like lifting, but I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, just for heart and health purposes, have been wanting to run a lot more and get a little bit more of that like higher intensity cardio and exercise in. So I would say wake up. I like to get the workout out of the way early. If I have a couple calls, depending, we've been doing a lot of stuff out in Dubai and in the Middle East
I see
recently.
you out there a lot.
So yeah, we do. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. But we did a really cool partnership with the Dubai government, and so
Okay.
that was a big reason why we were out there or have been out there, and we'll continue to go out there. I mean, that's probably I've been to 20 countries. I think Dubai is my favorite city I've been to.
I've
Uh,
never been, but I see everyone going there. I'm like, well,
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll say for us, do we have a slightly biased perspective? Probably just because, we went out there for some specific reasons and got to do really some incredible things. But even if you're just going out there to visit, I mean, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's safe. There's a lot to do, different ecosystems. You've got the beach, you've got the desert, the city life. So it's really neat. I'd highly recommend going out there. And there's a lot of hitters that are out there as well. So
okay.
definitely recommend checking it out. But yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm a wake up, workout kind of guy. Probably would eat the first meal around like 12. Well, maybe have calls before and after lunch. Maybe I'm working on videos. The one task that I have not been able to give up yet, and a lot of people like they don't believe this or understand this. I still edit every single one of our videos.
You edit?
I edit every video. If you look at my last probably 500 to 1,000 videos that we've posted on that channel, The School of Hard Knocks, I've edited every single one, and each video takes a minimum of an hour to edit.
I
So, like
did
for example,
not know that.
before I came here, I put a video up today at 12. I edited from like 10 to 12 today.
And I was assuming that you use schedulers.
No, I mean, so I have a content agency, and we probably have 5 to 10 editors that work for us. I still edit every one of our Hard Knocks videos.
That is
It's
crazy.
crazy because, you know, I've mentioned I have a client, his name's Anyi, and he's again in Dallas, very successful
Mhm.
entrepreneur out there. And like I said, you hear a lot of, successful entrepreneurs talk about delegating,
Delegating,
buying
yeah.
back your time, right? And that's his whole thing. It's like get somebody to do the job 70% as good as you can, and then move on. Like you need to stop doing those. They call them the MWA activities,
Mhm,
the minimum wage activities.
mhm.
Editing's definitely one of those activities. However, it's one that I just have refused to give up.
Why
Uh,
is that, you think? Is it because you don't trust anyone else
you
particular
know,
with the brand,
because
or
I think the number one thing that my partners and I, but I would say that I'm the absolute best at is taking a 20 minutes worth of content. Cause I would say our interviews, even the ones on the street, are anywhere on average from 10 to 20 to even 30 minutes.
Mhm.
I would say I'm probably the best in the world, or one of the best in the world, at taking 20 to 30 minutes worth of content and putting it down to 1 to 1.5 minutes. So
Wow.
the way that I edit is very interesting, being that I will take, different parts from three different answers and combine it into one to make it the most engaging and entertaining, as well as just the overall pacing, the flow. I mean, there's a lot that goes into
Wow.
virality and like short form content. So I would say that that's why, is that to me, if I were to explain it to somebody, hey, I want this piece here and this part there, and put these two answers together and take out this and that. If I were to do that and then also do revisions on top of that, it would take the same amount of time for me to get
Oh,
one
okay.
video
Yeah.
back, as opposed to me just, doing it myself. And at some point, I'm sure, like, I'm gonna have no decision but to, like, literally just,
Yeah.
kind of give the ropes off to somebody else. And I'm sure too that I will, at some point also just train somebody who's really talented at what they do from, like, an editing standpoint, and just let them do it. But yeah, that's I mean, so I mean, we post, I would say now, like, every other day or once every, 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
So I'm still editing all the videos, which are pretty time consuming.
I'm not gonna lie, I love to know that about you, though.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
would've never thought.
Yeah, most people
Never,
don't.
not even
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, well, when I bring that up to people, they're like, "You edit?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I do edit." Yeah, trust me, I'm a Premiere Pro wizard, you know? Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
I
So
don't edit anything really.
yeah, right.
But, I mean, our channel isn't the greatest online, so
Yeah, I mean, hey,
we gotta
everybody
learn.
yeah, everybody, starts somewhere,
Yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, I would say again, editing, workout, calls, stuff like that, is what like a typical day will look like when I'm like here at home base, and then when I'm traveling, I mean, it's go, 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 go. So I mean, it's like, hey, first I was just in New York City. We did the interview with, we did two really cool people back to back. Barbara Corcoran, Barbara
I
from
saw
Shark Tank.
that. She
We did
loved your interview, I saw.
yeah, she was great. And then, right before her, like 30 minutes before her, we did one of the owners of Equinox. Do you know
Okay.
Equinox,
I
the
know
gym?
Equinox, yeah.
So, yeah, Harvey Spivak. It was another great interview. I haven't posted it yet, but I did them back to back. And even before those two interviews, like, I was out on Wall Street for like 2 hours just filming organic content, like getting
Mhm.
people going in and out of the stock exchange. Then did those two interviews. Then after them, went back to Wall Street, filmed for a couple more hours before it got dark. Then had the community call, and then probably went to go eat some food out in New York City. So, the days, especially because when we're traveling to places, we'll be there for maybe 2 to 4 days. We try and, film as much, take advantage of as much of the opportunities or the people that we can connect with or collaborate with while we're out there.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, it's maybe like a typical day in the life, like here versus on the road. So, but no, I always like to say no day is ever really the same,
Mhm.
especially when we're traveling, doing content, because we're always doing some interesting things and connecting with some really cool people. So it's always a good time.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. I would like to, if you can, share some of the things that we can look forward to as School of Hard Knock fans.
Hmm.
Is there
Yeah.
anything we can look forward to?
Um, yeah, I mean, just I would definitely say get a part of the community if you're not already,
Mhm.
because I mean, every, week we're hosting some crazy, great live calls with hyper successful people. This month we've got 3 calls. Next week we got a call with, $100 million venture capital entrepreneur. The week after that, and Malum, she sold solid core for a couple $100 million. End of the month we got another good one. So I would say definitely get a part of that. As far as interviews, uh, my thing about this, and I'll tell you off air. We do have some really cool interviews lined up, but I don't like to say them like publicly,
Mhm.
just because I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, they celebrate too early, or
Yeah.
they say things before they actually happen. And especially in this world and in this business, things can fall through like that.
Yeah.
So even though I'm very optimistic and happy and looking forward to some of the different collabs and stuff like that we have lined up, I don't like to address it too much, publicly, just
Okay.
because you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
I've came super close to getting like some of the biggest people in the world, and just one little thing can cause it to,
Yeah.
fall through.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I mean, I'll tell my partners and that's it. Like, I won't even tell my, family sometimes when we have something cool coming up. It's like when it happens and people will just see it. But no, I mean, that's it. Yeah, just, like I said, the community's growing. It's doing really nicely. Got about 3,500 or 4,000 members right now. So
Mm.
just trying to keep growing that. And then just, like I said, I'm always focused on growth. We got 12 million followers now. I'm just thinking about, okay, how do we get to 15, 20 million collective followers in the next year or two, So that's what I'm thinking about.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I super value and appreciate it. I will never forget this.
Thank you so
So
much. I was
thank
happy
you.
to be here. It's a great podcast, great questions, good food,
Yeah.
and thank you for
Cold
having me
food.
on. It means a lot,
Thanks.
really.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace out.